Hey, how's it going? I'm Jules Thomas. You're tuned into my channel, Changing the Game. Today I wanted to talk about my experiences in dealing with PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 22. It was about 2 years after my younger brother passed away. I was 20 and he was 19. It was a lot for me at the time, and it wasn't just that. It was an accumulation of things through my life, my lifestyle, and how I also grew up. And at that point, it was something that was so overwhelming that it was like my brain blew up, like my head blew up inside, where I just lost total control and fear just took over, and everything that came was anxiety and the panic attacks, and where it was I was too scared to even leave my bed. I was too scared to leave my bedroom, and I pushed everyone away. I pushed my relationship at the time away, and my family and friends, and I was so scared. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one, because at that time I never knew other people were dealing with the same thing, or they had the same symptoms as me. I went and I started seeing a psychologist, and that was when I was diagnosed with PTSD. And I seen a psychologist for probably just over a year, and I was fortunate enough to be covered under Indian Affairs, and I suggest that anybody who is treaty, go see a psychologist, go talk, even if you're not at the level that I was, even if you just have personal issues in your life, things that you need to deal with, or relationship problems, school problems, money problems, work problems, anything. It's always good to have somebody professional to talk to have that, that professional opinion, or just having an ear, just someone to listen to. And it was something that helped me, and it's something that I promote, that you should seek help. Don't wait till it's too late. There's so many people who suffer from PTSD and severe depression that they can't handle it because they didn't seek that help. They chose to take the ulterior motive, which is suicide, which is acting out, which is lashing out, which is not dealing with the problems that they have. I even got to the point where I felt like it was never going to go away. I thought that I was losing my mind, that I was going crazy, I was going to get locked up, I was going to get put in a straitjacket. That's how crazy it was. And I really thought I was the only one. I look back at a lot of the things that happened in my life, growing up as a child, growing up as a teenager, as a young adult, and I look back and I reflect on the things that led to me being diagnosed with PTSD. I grew up in a single parent home. We were low income. We were an indigenous family. We came from the northern Alberta, which was bush area, and we didn't have a lot. And my parents, they had even less when they were growing up. So we come from a people where so much trauma and so much has been done to us, and we don't acknowledge the deep rooted impacts that it has affected all of us. Coming from northern communities, coming from small communities, a lot of people don't see where the hurt and where the pain comes from and what it's doing to everybody. like a lot of it was, personal issues. Like not having my dad around growing up. Always looking towards other people to always trying to find someone I could look up to or someone I could relate to, and it never really happened for me. I was always wanting to find a way to be a man, to do things as a man, to experience things as a man, but I was raised by my mom. It was me and her and my little brother. I didn't have any male role models to look up to or look towards, and I turned to crime at an early age. I turned to drug and alcohol abuse at an early age. It was a lot to deal with growing up in a single parent home and not having a lot. I can remember at an early age that I wanted things that we couldn't have. And I did what I did to get those things. I stole. I did everything possible to do that. I got what I wanted by any means necessary. And, it started off selling drugs at an early age. First time I went to jail was for selling coke and crack to an undercover cop. I went to Young Offender Center. The next time I went to jail was I was taken down by the gang unit for having a machine gun in my trunk. All those things, being arrested, being behind bars, being beat down by the cops, being degraded by the police, by the guards in jail. It takes its toll. Having to live a lifestyle where showing fear, showing emotion is considered a weakness. Having to suppress all that, having to hide all that, it takes its toll. So, I'm dealing with that for 20-some years, and then finally, getting to the point where enough was enough, where my brain just couldn't handle it anymore. And it was hard, it was scary. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know anything. I was just out of it. And it took months and months for me to come around to finally realize how serious my condition was and how serious my diagnosis was. I always thought it was me. I always thought, like I had this problem, like I was, crazy or whatever, and it was something that, a lot of it, like the majority of PTSD and dealing and coping with it is expressing yourself, talking, letting it out, sharing your inner problems, sharing your pain and your suffering. And throughout the years, some of the stuff I did that helped was making music, writing, recording, finding my artistic outlets, finding stuff that I could express my emotions, I could express my feelings, and talk about my personal stuff. I know in my community, I know in a lot of indigenous communities and inner city communities, low-income communities, there are so many people suffering. There are so many people who aren't diagnosed and don't know what's wrong with them and don't know where to go. As long as you talk to somebody, talk to anybody, there's always hope. There's no giving up. You can't give up. For myself, I can't give up. I have my 2 children, I have my wife, I have my family, I have my friends. I have a lot of things that I have built and acquired to help me to, these relationships, these things I have in life that push me forward. Like before I had my children, I didn't know my path. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was selling drugs, I was doing crime, I was doing all these things that weren't bettering my life, bettering my condition, bettering my situation. I had my first son. I knew then I wanted to be the father I never had. I knew then that I had to think about another life before mine. I knew then that everything I did before that didn't matter anymore. It was from what I did then on that really truly mattered. I wanted to be someone my children could respect, could look up to, and could be proud of. So from then I started taking steps to better my life, better my living situation, and to help me cope with the PTSD and everything that came with it. I started doing things on a professional level that I never done before, that I would never accomplish before. It started with a print and design company. Then it was a Bannockburger restaurant. It was so many things that came from that, speaking at youth conferences, all kinds of stuff like that. Self-publishing a children's book, and more children's books that are coming from that. Even in fashion, making clothing, having clothing lines, a clothing business, and pretty much just following my dreams. I knew I had to follow my dreams. I knew I had to pursue things that made me feel happy inside, that made me feel proud, that took me out of that depression. I had so many fears in life that I was scared to do things. I stopped myself from doing things, and that's what caused the depressions as well. And that's what fed the fuel for those. I knew I had to challenge those things head on. Anything that I was scared of, I had to take it head on. And I just want to tell people, you're not alone. And there's help out there. There's people that'll listen. And I just, I wanted to make this video to show that we're not all perfect. We all have our past. We all have things that affect us in our lives. And, we all just trying to do our best to survive. I just want to thank you for listening. And I hope whoever needs help knows that that it's out there, and that I'm listening as well. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in.